About a year before that, Mammy had organised a concert for Nicaragua in the Olympia Theatre, and Sinead O'Connor sang at it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, is that how Mammy knew Sinead O'Connor?
Yeah.
And there's a picture of...
Yeah, at the Nicaragua Sport Club. It was huge. It was very popular in Ireland, and there was huge support for them.
Okay.
And much like today for the Palestinians, Ireland, there was huge support for the Nicaraguan group.
Okay, right. Because I remember Mammy calling me. But the person she was talking about when she called me was Rosario, right?
Yeah.
She was, she felt she really bonded with.
Well, what happened was Daniel came in with, obviously he would have had, there was about 6 or 7 people with him. But Rosario, I mean, she was just she's a tiny little figure, but full of life and really attractive and very Latin and she was full of personality, and herself and my Mammy just clicked. They just got on great from the moment she walked in the door. And in fact, they went to another room just to have a gossip and a chat, and they were talking for a good 2 hours. And it was then that Rosario invited Mammy to Nicaragua to the 10th anniversary of the revolution.
Okay.
So he'd already been 10 years practically in Paris.
And were you keen to go?
Yeah. God, yeah. Free holiday with my mother.
And you, Kate?
I was at that age, Kate was about 13.
No.
I was 14 when we went.
Yeah?
I mean, I didn't really... I mean, it did. Even to me, it was kind of exciting. I mean, it was exotic. This is where you didn't go further than, New York, and that was exotic.
Actually, I'll tell you how I do. I think it was some kind of a student accommodation. It was Rosario booked us in there. It was like a seminary. But it was definitely some kind of a university with student accommodation. And you'll see in the first picture, one of the first pictures, yes, there's Rosario with my sister Kate is on the left, Rosario is in the middle, I'm on the bed on the right.
That's Kate sitting beside you in case you don't remember. Right. Well done. Jeez.
And that's anyway, but I'm not sure where it was, and that was our first night in Nicaragua, and Rosario came to see us, and we stayed chatting until 1 and 2 in the morning.
What were you chatting about?
About everything, what we were going to do, and she'd made loads of plans for us. We were going on a trip for a week on a boat trip around Nicaragua to see everywhere, and then we were
on
going
a boat.
Back. Yeah, we were going on. Weren't we on a boat?
We crossed Lake Managua.
Okay.
And went to some village the other end of it.
Okay.
I don't remember what the name of it was.
No, I don't.
I remember the boat took a long time.
And we were with a group of Americans, and we didn't really get on with the Americans.
And it's the only lake that has sharks.
Shark.
I can't remember that. It was like a ferry. We were on a ferry.
It was a ferry.
Oh, it was a ferry. Sharks. Yeah, I remember that now. Actually.
Yeah. But I think the lakes was so polluted in the 90s that all the fish life. I think it was a Kodak factory or something. I think that's one of the things the Sandinistas have really, the lake they've restored. Fish life.
I do remember that, and the first day we went travelling, because I'd been in Cuba, say, about 2 years before that with Mammy, and the thing that struck me was the difference between, I remember the children in Cuba had beautiful teeth. I just remember that, and I found that quite sad, that in Nicaragua, at this time, they didn't have great teeth, and I just remember thinking, God, the difference between Cuba and Nicaragua. But I thought it gave me great hope. It was only the revolution was only 10 years old. What would be possible? What they might be able to do in the future. And I also remember the women were always washing clothes in the rivers, and the rivers looked really muddy, and yet they'd have these sparkling white clothes. I could never understand it. Beautifully white, and they would wash them in these what looked like dirty rivers to us. But that was But where did we go now?
We went and stayed in that hotel. Isn't that where we met? Isn't that where he saw Chris Christopherson in the Correct. Posh Hotel?
We did. Yes, we took it upon ourselves because that's right. Our first day, Mammy asked us to. This was very. Mammy asked us to. She gave me $100 to change into. I can't remember what's the currency in
Cordobas.
To change into Cordobas, so it's fine. I went into the bank, and I must have been in there 20 minutes, and I came out with a bag, a huge shopping bag with currency, with Cordobas. It was a huge bag. It took us, that would take you an hour to count the money I had in the bag, and that was the price of maybe one meal or something like that. But you know, you'd have a huge, it was like a brick of money you would hand over for a cup of coffee. The inflation was that high. I think it was by 40% or something like that. And Mommy couldn't believe it when I came out with a big bag of money, you know, it was gas. But that same day we went to a hotel, and as we're sitting there, we saw Chris Christopherson, John Malkovich and Oliver Stone. They were there for the 10th anniversary as well. And Chris Christopherson actually had just written a record, had produced a record called Third World Warrior about Nicaragua. Fantastic man. Sadly died recently. But they were there, and actually that was quite funny because I was a huge fan of Chris Christopherson, and myself and Kate were sitting there, and unbeknownst to me, they left, and Mammy went after Chris Christopherson. She went a good mile, but he came back.
So what'd she do? What?
She went after him.
So you, at this point, you hadn't spoken to Chris.
I'd never spoken to Chris Christopherson.
So did you know what they were doing there? How did you know they were there for the?
We guessed. We didn't know much about him. Although, well, I'd followed his music. I had known.
And did you know who Oliver Stone was?
I knew who Oliver Stone was, yeah.
Okay, so they left.
And I knew who John Malkovich was.
So what, you were sitting in the bar at the pool?
No, we're at the pool. No, we're just literally sitting at the pool on a lounger, and they were sitting at table and chairs right beside us.
Okay. And
wasn't quite right beside us, like they wouldn't have heard us, because I said to Mammy, "Oh look, there's Chris Christopherson."
You didn't say it like that.
She had her tongue hanging out.
Oh yeah, no, I probably went, "Oh my God, that's true. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, but I would have whispered it.
Okay. They left.
So they left,
and Mammy chased after him.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, I didn't know this though.
Well, where were you? She took off.
At the pool.
But she might have been gone.
Oh, you were at the pool, and Mammy chased.
I was kind of lying in the sun, my eyes closed.
God, man, right?
And she went after him, and I remember she said she was going to the bank or something, and she walked a good mile, well, maybe half a mile.
Well, she followed like a stalker.
Yeah.
The poor fella.
Yeah. And he said no problem, and he came back. And that's how we were taking that photo, the group family photo.
Oh, okay.
And he was just lovely. And I was like an idiot because I was actually changing out of my togs and my t-shirt was over my eyes. And the next thing I pulled my head out and there's Chris Christopherson standing there. I felt such a fool. And I think I said something stupid like, "Oh, I love your music." But Mommy got quite friendly with him then because she met him subsequent to that. I didn't meet him again, but she did.
Yeah, okay, right. So, go on. So then what did you do?
I don't remember what order you see.
You're right. It's too long ago to remember the orders. I mean, this is 40.
So then what you...
I remember we went to the fancy house. Do you remember we spent the day with Rosario and the children in the really posh house?
Was that after the celebration? So you said,
no,
okay.
It was afterwards. Afterwards, then, our last 4 days were spent touring with Rosario. She would bring us around she brought us to her house. I wouldn't call it like houses in Latin America are lovely because they're open. You know, they're all open and they look.
Do you not remember we went to
the one where Castro's bath was?
And it was
that was the presidential house.
It was the house.
The summer house.
It was the house that would be given to dignitaries to stay in. They referred to it as Castro's house. Castro would stay in it when he came over, and it was well fancy.
Yeah.
And Mammy was.
And Mammy got all excited because Castro's bedroom. And we were all lying on Castro's bed, and then Mammy got into Castro's bath.
Well, she had a bath.
No, it was an empty bath, but that's how excited she was. Like, don't forget, Mammy came back from Cuba. The present she brought back to everyone was a jar with sand from the Bay of Pigs. Now, Mammy was very excited to get that. There's not a lot of people down in Dublin who would be thrilled to get the Bay of Pigs sand.
But the other thing was, as I remember, that was the main reason Mammy had wanted to go, was she thought she was going to meet Castro.
Correct, that's right.
But of course, the assassination attempt had happened.
No, Ochoa had been executed.
It was. The reason Castro didn't go to the celebration was because General Ochoa had been found to be involved in cocaine smuggling from Colombia to America, and he was put on trial and executed very quick. Because I met his niece in she was from La Isla de Juventud, where I was working in Cuba, right? And that's why he didn't go, because it was just all this came out of the blue, and it was such a shock.
And that's how we found out he wasn't coming, because Rosario told her then, but she said hopefully the next time. But I can still see Mommy in the bath.
God.
And the joy. And the joy. Now, I tell you, he was a rock star.
Because I just remember that had been really the big driver.
I can still see it. It was a blue, but it was a navy bath. Yeah, it was a navy bath. And she's there in the bath.
Yeah. And so what else did you... So you saw a lot of Rosario and her kids.
Yeah, very much so. And the last 4 days...
you saw her kids.
Yeah, the last 4 days we just kind of hung out with her.
And her children.
Yeah.
I can't believe you never mentioned that to that. Do you know this, Kate? We met one of the children. He's head of a TV station or something, right? We sat talking to him for about... It's where I told the joke about meeting Pinochet's niece. Remember, they were all laughing when I adjusted her neck because she had a bad neck.
Okay.
And we were saying... And Eleanor never said, I was holding you when you were a baby.
All due respect, I was 25 years of age, so I can assure you the least interest I had when I was in Nicaragua was babies. I was just thinking about Chris Christopherson. But I was not interested in the baby sitting on my lap.
Bloody hell!
Which is probably I'd forgotten.
Until I saw the picture. I can't believe that, right?
No, I remember she'd. I thought she'd about 5 kids.
Yeah, no, she had kids. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And because there's one of you holding the child right there, okay? A little one.
That was the posh house. Yeah, that was lovely. Yeah, it was really nice. I remember that.
And where were you? You were staying in the hotel.
No, we went back to that. It was kind of a collegiate. It was like a
collegiate, like Egmont in Denmark.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Except it was more government. There was more NGOs or government working there. Everybody knew Rosario in there.
Okay. All right. So what? She'd go and you'd drive around with her, and she'd show you
she'd pick us up every day and we'd drive around.
And you'd go around Managua.
Yeah, I went to Cork. We went to houses, didn't we? Can't remember.
And what would you talk about? Would you talk about politics?
Well, Mommy did all the talking. She's a bit like you.
You'll have to insult me now, right?
We didn't get a word in anyway.
So what? You're sitting in the back of the car with the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were I wasn't a kid, but Kate was, and I
was a kid.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Right.
I was 25.
And so, what was Mammy talking about?
We weren't listening to Mammy.
We didn't listen at all,
it's
right?
It's a bit like, remember when we went to France with Mammy or went around Europe with Mammy?
Because I'm hoping you're going to help Rosario remember some of this.
No, I have no idea what they talked about.
Okay.
I presume they talked about... To be honest with you, they got on so well. They weren't talking politics. Oh, actually, I do remember Mammy talking to Rosario about her going to Los Angeles, because I was a bit starstruck, with the Chris Christopherson and all that.
You thought Daniel Ortega was hot as well, didn't you?
I did actually. He was very attractive. He was hot at the time. Anyway,
we weren't really I wasn't interested in political.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean neither.
And do you remember the rumor that went around that Tom Cruise? We might have made it up in our own heads. Tom Cruise was going to join Oliver Stone's party. And we were sure we were going to get to see Tom. We were going to get to meet Tom Cruise.
Oh God! Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think this was what film did they do together? Oh, the one with the fella in the wheelchair, the Vietnam thing.
4th of July.
He had just made that
Correct.
with Oliver Stone, right? So this played into
Yeah.
Oh man, I was sure that he was going to go for me.
Yeah.
Oh, 14.
Yeah, that's how we were interested. And in fact, we were at this party. Now I can tell you, all of his cabinet, Daniel Ortega's cabinet, they would all have been there. We weren't interested in any of them. We were looking for, as Kate
some of
said,
them were kind of hot.
Yeah,
that was really.
That was it. But
so you don't remember those guys you're pictured with
No,
in the?
No, I remember.
Well, if there was a good-looking one, I might. That's the age
Daniel
we were
Ortega
in,
was really good looking.
Yeah, he was very attractive.
So what happened then on the day of the celebration?
For us that was a bit of a pain, because Mammy was invited to the main thing, so she was up in the VIP, right? So we had to make our own way down, and we couldn't find it.
The two of you, yeah.
We're in the middle of thousands of people. I mean, I've never seen anything like the amount of people that were there.
I don't remember this at all.
Do you know?
No.
And we couldn't find it, and we were walking for hours, and the heat.
You
was
couldn't
incredible.
find what?
We couldn't find where it was. Because Mammy, she was all with her VIP friends and her bus and everything.
That's Mammy.
Yeah. And so we had to find our way around. Now, don't forget, this is Nicaragua. It's been flattened after the earthquake. It's not like a city like Dublin, or going to a few shops or look at something. We were just trying to find where it was. Couldn't speak English or Spanish. And so for us, we kind of missed the excitement that Mammy had, if you like. But then when we got there, that was pretty impressive because there was thousands of people in the park. And it was music and everything. But, as you said, we weren't really in the centre of the whole thing, so we kind of missed that excitement.
But was it very different when we were there 5 years ago?
Oh, yeah. No, there was none of as far as I remember, the trees weren't there or anything like that. Like, it was very drab.
Yeah.
It was very flat. There was no centre of the city. There wasn't any restaurants or anything like that. You didn't go out to bars or anything like that. The roads were all potholes. The difference between then and when I went back in 2020 or 2019, I think, was amazing.
So what do you remember Mammy saying about her experience at the celebration?
Well, she would have come back with all the excitement of who she met, because she was up there with Chris Christopherson and Oliver Stone and Daniel Ortega and Rosario. So, that was all about that, the excitement of meeting all these people, Like, when you're at something like that and you've loved Nicaragua all your life, it's a bit of a sort of in the spotlight, fame kind of thing. All these people I have followed all my life, you don't tend to ever meet them, and then they're standing there in front of you. So it was a bit like that excitement,
And when she came back to Ireland?
And then when she came back to Ireland, well, then you just kind of worked harder and harder at the Nicaraguan Solidarity Group with Robert Nobbin. But sadly, she got quite sick back then. She died about 2 years. Well, she died when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, which was 1990. Well, it was 1990.
She died
early.
She died 17 months after we got back.
Yeah.
She was dead.
It was that close.
Yeah.
She died on 30 February 1990. And this trip was...
They've had that experience.
88.
Yeah.
So she was dead within 18 months.
Because she, instead of flowers at the funeral, she wanted all donations given to Nicaragua Solidarity.
It's on her memorial. It's lovely, actually.
I found it. So someone sent to me just a few weeks ago. It's weird.
And that was quite sad, actually, because she'd made some great contacts. She'd got Chris Christopherson, Oliver Stone, and she'd all these great plans to...
Christy Moore.
She was going to get them all together and sort of, because one thing she always felt about in left-wing politics in Nicaragua and Cuba, it was always very fragmented. You're trying to get groups together. Still is. And what she'd hoped to do was, I'd love to see what she would have done in the internet era, because she was going to get all of these big names together and form a sort of a, United Alliance.
Well, maybe that's what we got to do now.
You know what she probably wouldn't have done?
What?
Become a Trump supporter.